and I believe we are live. Let's see if we can't get our camera adjusted for a slightly better angle. Probably better there. Excellent. All right. KD, already on. Man, people are fast. Let's go back real quick and talk about, give it a little quick plug for the seminar we have coming up and a preview for an upcoming seminar. We have our seminar the 28th, no, I land the 28th, the 29th, 30th, and 31st of July at FlowShala in Bellingham, Washington, where we will be doing Mace basics, heavy club swinging basics, and OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act, weapons basics, because they're all interlinked and because it's the most fun possible way to teach them. Also, we are going to have, we're planning a 5-day seminar or longer, it might be 7 days, in Thailand the first week of January. Everybody who would like to come to do some awesome training stuff, we're going to do kind of a similar format. We're going to do basics of staff and club as OODA loop defense training. We're going to do mace swinging. We'll see if we can get clubs over there. I just don't know about weight yet. And we're just going to do all kinds of stuff. We've got a really dope location picked out. It's a brand new facility, which was actually built by somebody who used to come to my aerial studio when I had an aerial studio in Los Angeles. And she has this awesome facility. It's like a hotel / learning place in Thailand. It's across from a giant white temple. She sent me a bunch of pictures. It's going to be really cool. She's been working on building it for a couple of years now, and I think we'll be one of the first seminars there. So there will be food and rooms and all kinds of, it's going to be really, really, really cool. I'm pretty excited about it. So me and Summer Huntington are working on that, and that will be finalized. But everybody tell me, like, when. I was thinking the first week of January or the second week of January, but I don't really know which one is best. I don't know if it's better to be right after the first or if it's better to be a week later. Everybody chime in and tell me what they think on that idea. Yeah, so 5 days or 7 days, I don't know yet. We're working on all the details, but it's going to be pretty cool. And the location looks spectacular. And I've never been to Thailand, so excuse to travel. Built-in adventure training. Here's a question from Bren and Mel Spikes. Weight vest recommendations, thank you. Depends on what kind of weight vest you want. Like CrossFitters wear imitation plates a lot now. So there are Rogue inserts that go inside, like actual bulletproof or carriers, as military guys will call them. And you'll see them worn in the CrossFit games all the time. They wear the 5'11" one. I don't like the 5'11" one because it sits way too low. Real armor should not sit this low. It's supposed to sit at your, what is this, the sternal notch, front and back. So most people are wearing their weight vest just way too low, and it changes the way you move and it changes the way you breathe. If you want just real normal weight, then AR500 plates, there's tons of companies who make that. It's a ballistic steel. And you want multi-curve. There's flat, which is awful. Don't get that in any type of weight vest. There's single curve, and then there's multi-curve. Multi-curve tends to be the most comfortable. And if you're doing something like hundreds of dips or you're running, you would like it to be as comfortable as possible. That's if you're going more of the CrossFit path. It does change the way you breathe. I would recommend people get have their plates high enough, sternal notch, so you need to adjust your upper straps until you get your plates up here. They should be covering your rib cage, not your belly, not your abdomen. They should be interfering less with how you move. And those come in usually two sizes, 10 by 12 and 11 by 14. 14 long is pretty long. It's going to give you less movement overall, but it will be heavier. So a lot of military, law enforcement, firefighters, they wear those just plain old real ballistic plates. The other company that I like that I've been trying to get a hold of for like a year now and nobody's emailed me back is Ironwear. They make awesome weight vests. I've had one since the 90s. I still have the weights. The weight vest itself disintegrated after about 25 years of just beating the living shit out of it. But if there's a better product out there, I have no idea what it is. It's the best one ever. It adjusts by half-pound increments, and it flexes to your body. You can do rolls in it. I used to do Aikido in it and Jiu-Jitsu in it. So that's an entirely different thing. I've been messaging those guys for like a year. I'll try and call them again today to see. They really expanded their product line, but they don't have the old product that I used to have. I used to have this awesome vest, and it zipped up the front, and it had half-pound increments and half-pound flexi weights in it. It was the best weight vest ever. If you get an ironwear vest, tell them I told you about it, because I don't see, nobody talks about it anymore. They have a terrible website that I don't think has been updated since the 90s. And I've sent them several emails because I want to get a whole thing from them. They have an 80-pound weight vest. It's called the Firefighter vest. I would like that. I really don't need that. You really need about 40 to 50 pounds, but they do make the vests that do that, and they come in adjustable weights. They are super stupid heavy. If you put on something like that and you start redoing Bodyweight 101, or you do the upcoming Krav Get Up 1 or Judo Get Up 1 in a 40-pound weight vest, it will be an insane, brutal amount of work, and you will definitely get stronger. You will move a lot slower for a long time with that heavy weight, though. So yeah, that was my weight vest recommendations. Rogue makes substitute plates, AR500 or AR600 or AR650 real plates. Multi-curve is what you're looking for. I don't like the 511 vest that CrossFitters wear. I prefer something like a T-Rex arm or a Warrior plate carrier. The Warrior plate carriers are the real stiff ones, and they change the way you breathe. You have to breathe slightly differently when you learn to wear them, but they're very stable. They don't shift a lot when you're doing stuff, which is really good. And beyond that, if you really want to get into the crazy stuff, it's very expensive ironwear, and they haven't called me back. I've been trying to get their stuff for like a year now. Andy Y, can you compare and contrast every minute on the minute strategies to traditional sets for strength, hypertrophy, and endurance? They're very different strategies. Your traditional strategies for strength is, 3 sets of 3 with 2 to 3 minute to 5 minute breaks in between for pure strength, to 5 sets of 5. And you would be doing that for core lifts, and you'd be jacking your weight up, and you'd have super duper long time periods so that you can fully recover. In theory, you fully recover in 2 minutes if you're a well-trained athlete, in theory. These numbers change drastically person to person depending on their fitness level. Some people will push those breaks to 5 minutes. The problem with that is that suddenly your workout takes an extremely long period of time. Every minute on the minute is for intermediate weights. You're not shooting for pure strength. Your goal is to get a lot of work done in a minimum amount of time. So EMOM is about work capacity. There are some classic EMOM strategies where they throw 3 exercises inside of a minute, and the goal is to get 40 seconds of work and 20 seconds of break, which really makes it kind of like a psycho Tabata, a Tabata being 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of break, 2 units to 1 unit, and then EMOM should be at 40 with a 20-second break. If you're not getting that break, then you need to learn to move faster, more efficiently, or use lighter weights. So they're very, very different strategies between EMOM and traditional strength training. Hypertrophy training, you have your classics where you're trying to fill a specific amount of time under load. So classic hypertrophy, is 6 to 8 reps. But you can really balance that out if you want to understand the hypertrophy. It's really time under tension. They're just doing it by counting reps. But everybody forgot that they were supposed to be doing pacing, like 4 seconds down, 2 second hold at the bottom, 2 second up. So every rep should take like 8 seconds. So 8 seconds times 8 reps really should be 64 seconds, plus getting it up and getting it down should take about 70 seconds. EMOM, totally different than that classic hypertrophy. Once again, with the hypertrophy, you're looking for longer breaks in between because they're trying to lift heavier weights. They're just changing from a pure strength strategy, 3 to 5, to hypertrophy, 6 to 8, to, what was the last category he gave me there? Endurance. EMOM is much closer to an endurance strategy than it is to strength or hypertrophy, by far. But pure endurance is not stopping. There's a bunch of different ways you can do that. There's anaerobic and aerobic endurance. So aerobic is more like a 1-to-1 work to rest ratio. So you'd be doing, say, 60 seconds of work, 60 seconds of break. Now you know why it's in slam ball. Anaerobic would be 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of break, which is why it's in body weight. So we're trying to attack endurance, from my perspective, from a bunch of different timing strategies to get your body to adapt to a bunch of different ideas. The basic ones being, at the beginning, EMOM we use is our strength endurance for swings. And we start it really light, right? It's every minute on the minute, and you start with 6 to 8 reps, and then you build up to 20 reps, which really should take 30 seconds, which should make it a 1-to-1. So it's constantly should be staying in the aerobic vein with swings. Then you go to clean and press, where you build up to 2.5 to 3 minutes of time under tension, but you're changing the upper body load, but keeping the lower body and the abs engaged all the time. And then you have that 1 minute break. That break could be longer, but for most people with the weights they have available, it's not necessary. And then we go to our 30-30 strategies that we use a lot for heavy club swinging. There are other strategies you can use for heavy club swinging, 60-60, 90-30, 90-90, but they just get bonkers hard really fast. The amount of load you can get done in 30 seconds of club work is really a lot. And the way that I coach it is I want people to go up in weight so that they will be forced to have better technique over time. I don't know if you guys can hear that tractor that's out in the field or not. I don't think you can. I think only I can hear it. So I'm constantly leading people towards endurance by trying to build up a bunch of different timing protocols to get people to adapt so that they can build up towards doing things like 4-minute sets, kind of where we start our pure endurance training, and then building up towards 10-minute to 12-minute to 20-minute sets. I really love between 8 minutes and 15 minutes. And there's a whole section of kettlebell training that we haven't really talked about yet, right? Like endurance complexes, just because I really need a camera person to work on that better. But we're going to release a whole pile of those later. But yes, they're all very different strategies. EMOM is not really in the category of something like hypertrophy or pure strength at all. Unless you were doing 1 rep. If you were doing 1 deadlift and then doing an EMOM that way, you'd be closer to strength, but you still don't have those long enough break periods to really push your max strength load, but you can do a shit ton of work. So EMOM is really about doing a shit ton of work in a brief period of time. I like EMOMs because they fit into an overall Metcon strategy. And there have been some classic Metcon strategies, right? Tabata, 4 minutes on, 1 minute off, 30-30, 90-30, every minute on the minute, as fast as possible with technique. I'm missing one. 21-15-9, also sometimes done in the Fibonacci sequence of 21-13-8-5. All those are different Metcons, and they're trying to get people to get more work in a brief period of time. Pure strength is not meant to be time efficient at all. Neither is hypertrophy. Mark, what are your thoughts on spinal engine theory from KD? Do you agree with its premises that we use the spine and limbs in locomotive movement patterns? Yeah. I'm not really familiar with the term spinal engine theory, but everything we do is basically spinal engine, right? Kettlebelling, all spinal engine, clubs, spinal engine, mace, spinal engine. But we break ours up into intermediate weights, intermediate complexity, heavier weights, lower complexity. Let's say kettlebells, heavier weights, lower complexity. Let's call our heavy club swinging intermediate weights, intermediate complexity, and let's call our mace lightweight, high complexity. But everything we do builds up towards doing what you might think of as mace flow or kettlebell flow. where it's integrated movement patterns and swinging weights. There's no way to not activate your core in there or all the muscles surrounding your spine. So I'm not perfectly familiar with whatever spinal engine theory is, but just by the name, I assume that I agree with it immediately, because that is basically what we do all the time. Somebody just came up with a way cooler name, spinal engine theory. And yes, everything we do is about building locomotive movement patterns. Some people focus on locomotive movement patterns related to just, say, running. Some people focus on locomotive movement patterns based on just pure throwing patterns. I base my locomotive movement patterns more on OODA loop fight training. The movement patterns that people will default to under stress for the most basic thing that keeps humans alive: running, throwing, defense. My kind of main things that I want to talk about the most. So yeah, every time we build a stepping pattern or a hand release, that's spinal engine theory, as I would think of those words. Somebody's going to have to really tell me. I'll have to look up spinal engine theory and read more about it. CZ. Hey. Hello from Europe. Yo. Pierre Bruk. Bruk. I like that W, that U sound. I'm not sure if I'm saying right, but I like to say it that way. Salv Singh Bas. Do you have a bench press tutorial? I'm pretty sure we do. I'm pretty sure I made a bunch of different windmill tutorials. So a classic windmill tutorial, 45 degrees to the feet, bent legs, straight arm, get down, get up, track the arm to the inside of the leg. We've got that one. I know we have the straight foot version of that, which a lot of people don't like because it requires greater hamstring mobility. Side press is where you start pressing and dropping at the same time, and bent press is where you drop under the weight till your elbow locks out and then stand up with the use of your abs. I'm pretty sure we have those. I can't look it up right now, obviously, but I'm pretty sure I have them. Pretty sure I have like 5 or 6 windmill videos. Should I go back and make them all again with a clear vision and make them all in like 1 week so they all have a consistent idea? I'm kind of thinking about doing that because I've made a lot of stuff randomly as I have time or effort, and I was kind of thinking about starting the whole thing over again and starting with swings as I would teach it in studio, and then cleans, and then hand changes, and then presses, and then clean and presses, and then Turkish get up breakdowns, and then squats, and then teaching the whole thing that way, and then maybe teaching the whole windmill series again over again, but like labeling it like windmill 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to get to bench press. Somebody tell me if I should do that or not. I think I should just do that. It's probably just better to reorganize my thoughts now that I'm better at making videos. So that it just works out better and it's more understandable in the long run. Spinal Engine Theory by Sergei Grasetovsky. I'll have to look that up. Tim Gerber, fellow kettlebell aficionado. Someday I'll get good at it. I'm not great at kettlebells. I'm good at clubs. I'm not great at kettlebells, but I'm trying. Any thoughts on the best breathing patterns for clean and press? Depends on weight. Heavier weight, less breaths, more core contraction, higher numbers of reps, exhale at every direction change. So normally people will inhale at the beginning. They'll inhale at the bottom of the clean to fill their body with air. Exhale on the catch. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Am I doing that right? There's a double breath in there somewhere so that you can reset for the inhale at the bottom of the clean. That's if the clean and press is heavy. If it's so heavy that you have to inhale at the bottom of the clean to fill your body with air, that's one type of breathing. If you're more in an endurance type of breathing, that means your weight's not at max load, then you exhale everywhere. I exhale at every direction change, so it should be 4 or 5 breaths per movement. I always focus on the exhale because your body tends to naturally inhale for you. But I'm not doing pure strength training. If you're doing pure strength training, then you would focus on your inhale, create pressure, and then hold body pressure while you're doing the move, and then exhale at the end of the movement or through the end range of the movement. So there's different breathing patterns for almost everything. And you will try to hold your breath more to brace your body the heavier the weight is, or when you go up to a new heavy weight. The better you get with the weight, the more you'll be able to breathe, the more your endurance patterns will go up. Yeah, I think that's right. Hey, Zach. Thanks for the donation, buddy. Do you have any information on how to use blood flow restriction occlusion training with clubs? I don't. My buddy Dave from Sports Therapy Scotland talks about that stuff a lot. I don't mess with that stuff. I have a hard enough time just doing pure endurance training. I don't think I need to do a lot of blood occlusion training. I know that there are theories that it's been done throughout history, and you'll see different types of armbands and things like that. I don't really need to make it harder for my blood to pump around, but I understand the science behind the idea. I don't have any ideas on it. Mostly, I'm just trying to hold on to a weight for 20 to 30 minutes. And if there's some good information that I should know about blood occlusion training, I'd love to know about it. But I don't know if it works with the idea of the endurance training I do, because you're essentially adding a tourniquet to a limb. And then I've seen people do it with things like bodybuilding exercises where the sets are short or shorter. Haven't seen anybody doing it with a 5-minute set, a 10-minute set, or a 15-minute set. I don't know if you're gonna do something to yourself by slapping on a tourniquet and then pumping your blood super hard. I don't know, for a long period of time. I need to study more about that. I just can't know about everything all the time. And there's so many things out there that are what I consider super science versions of training, which are things like that, blood occlusion training. And I'm waiting for more of the science to be understood and for it to be presented in a more understandable way, so we can figure out how we're supposed to use it. So sorry, I don't really have any information on blood occlusion training. What does a sexy training block look like for females? Am I allowed to talk about this as a dude? I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this anymore. Sexy training block for females is similar, but not always done with men. It's a 10-minute training block of ab training, usually at the end of every workout. It's usually step one of sexy block of training. And then if there's a separate block, then it would be additional glute activation exercises. For the most part, kettlebelling is all glutes and abs. But when ladies want to add in the sexy block of training, usually the thing that they want to add first is the abdominal section, and we pick 3 exercises. And I wrote like 50 of these. I just don't have anybody to shoot it with. I need a female fitness model or something to help me shoot these. And we stack up different timing protocols, and we go for 10 minutes. And you do 3 exercises so it cycles you, so you don't burn out on any one, but you keep the core contraction the entire time. If you do kettlebells and clubs, it's not as hard as people think, because by doing kettlebells and clubs, you have really good ab endurance already. But you sexy them up by adding in things like sliding V's, V up opposite arm, opposite leg raise, one of my favorites. Hanging leg raises, all the hanging leg raises from circus training, which are psychotic, which most people just won't survive, so we tend not to do them. But we basically could put 50 ab exercises in a hat, pull out 3, stack them up in one of the like 14 different timing protocols, and then do that. We are gonna make that part of an upcoming program where we were gonna start releasing them 5 at a time. So people could do 5 of them, repeat it for 4 to 6 weeks, and then another 5 would come out. I just need more editors. But yes, and then the same thing would be true of glute training. Also tends to be a sexy block of training. For the most part, girls, if they're doing clubs, have plenty of tone in their upper body. They're trying not to get pecs, right, or lats that are huge. So light clubbing, usually if they're models, we stick in the 10 to 12.5 pound range. And we run those numbers up so they get really good arm endurance, so they have plenty of tone. That sets the foundation for their abs, and every time they do a swing, they get a glute fired left and right. So they have all the basics there. Then we just have to sexy it up by giving them some off angles that are not commonly associated with pure athletic performance, where we start pulling in aerial abs and those things in order to sexy up the muscles. But yes, it looks like abs and glutes, and it looks like usually 2 to 4 exercises run in cycle for 10 minutes at the end of training after all the primary lifts. Hope I answered that correctly. I tend to get lost in the middle when I'm thinking about the details. Where was that? That was for KD. Peter Brook, Tetris of training. Got 4 days of training per week, access to kettlebell clubs, and intermediate experience in all of them. What should I focus on for health and general physical preparedness? Swings, clean and press, Turkish get up, deck squat, all the mill patterns. Done. You can write a 3-year program just on that information. What are your thoughts on working around failure in reverse ladders for clean and press? I think it's good. I mean, that's the whole point of the way that I set up my perfect path. It's to keep pushing people close to failure, and then the next workout being easy, and then one being closer to failure, and then one being easy. The whole point of reverse ladders is that you're on the edge of failure with your 5 reps, and then it gets easier every time so that you can continue to do more work so that you can build up your endurance. The shoulder tends to be the thing, and the arm is the thing that's going to fail in clean and press. It's usually not the legs, because it tends to be generally lightweight for the legs. But the abs are on the entire time, the legs are on the entire time, the glutes are on the entire time. And then you build towards failure with our reverse ladder, and then it gets easier over time. That is the whole point of a reverse ladder, because you can edge out that way. Any particular exercise to help with spondylosis in the lumbar spine, displacement of one spinal vertebrae compared to another? Everything we do, starting light, primarily starting with your mobility first. There's a whole thing on which direction your bulge is in. You go opposite that. Am I saying that right? Don't quote me on this. Opposite that in the beginning. Most people who have that, I know a lot of people who have that from doing stunt stuff. They tend to get bulging discs a lot from high impact stress. For the most part, obligatory butter glider mention, nice. For the most part, doing the majority of your mobility, starting with your neck, your shoulders, doing your hips, and then doing your spine tends to help people make their discs better over time. And then ultralight clubbing, because the whole goal of that is to get the space in between your vertebrae to be massaged kind of like that. I don't know how to describe that. It's I don't know. I can't remember what the math term for that is. But that idea is that over time, the disc can go back to where they are. And traction, of course. There needs to be traction in there. Somehow people accomplish that in different ways. They accomplish it through neck traction. They have those door things. They accomplish it by traction tables for a lot of people, just to let their vertebrae get more space in between them at the end of a workout for what, like definitely 2 to 5 minutes. There's a whole bunch of stuff, but most of the stuff we do, if it's lightened up and you reintroduce all 6 degrees of freedom, can help people recover from that. In addition, of course, to all the physical therapy that they should be doing. Nothing we do should ever be replacing physical therapy. You should do your physical therapy and then start reinstituting all your planes of movement after that through light rotational club swinging. In Sonin 76543 system, what does the 3 stand for? 7. Hold on. 7. I call it 8. So that's your structured leg drive hip snap, foot alignment, crown to coccyx alignment, core engagement, shoulder pack, elbow lock, and grip confirmation. 6 is the 6 directions the human body moves in. 5 is 5 different types of breathing. 4, I can't remember what the 4 is. 3 is the unification of 3 different ideas, right? Joint mobility. Hold on, I can remember this. I can remember this if I think about it for a minute. Everything in Sonin stuff is a triangle, and everything has 3 points. And it applies to like 4 or 5 different things in his idea of training. But it would be like the mastery model, according to him, which would be like teaching, competing, and being taught. That could be the 3. There's also another 3. There's a couple of other 3s. He's changed it a couple of times over the course of 15 years. I have no idea what it stands for now. It changed, I think, 3 times what the 3 stood for. But it could be, let's say the mastery model. Let's say his mastery model. Hello from Atlantic Canada. Man, Atlantic Canada. Does that mean what's over there? Newfoundland? I don't know if I don't really know much about that part of Canada at all. I only know straight up from Vancouver. I really have to get over there sometime. About to wrap up mill squat with 8/8 club, which has made me better at literally everything. That is the point. It makes you better at literally everything. Any athlete can benefit from it if they don't already do heavy clubs, which is almost everybody. Almost nobody does heavy clubs. Baseball players, basketball players, football players, everybody, rowers, everybody would benefit from mill squat program. That's why I wrote it. Can't get the add-on kits, but he has an RMAX 35. Thoughts on programming that 10-pound jump? Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on that. This is why I'm not a big fan of RMAX. I love their clubs were great. They are the Cadillac of clubs. Think of them like the Pro Kettlebell. They're the best, most comfortable thing made. The problem is they refuse to make a 30, a 40, a 50. No idea why. They have plenty of money. They could knock it out at any moment. So everybody has to make the jump from RMAX 25 to RMAX 35, which is how I originally did it before I made my own custom clubs, because they refused several times to make other clubs. The jump, do all the same exercises, but start by doing just say 3 to 5 reps. Do it on the same timing strategy. Set a 1-minute repeating timer. So if you have mill squat program, that's 5 exercises times 4 rounds, that's 20 minutes. So set 20 1-minute rounds and just do 3 reps of each one of the exercises still in the same order and set it down. And then wait for the remainder of the minute. So you're probably gonna have 50 seconds of break. Do that through. The next time you come back, if you felt okay with that and you got through it, do 4 reps. And build up to maybe 10 reps before you jump to the 30-30 protocol. And do the same thing when you go from 35 to 45. Turn it back into pure strength training. The 10-pound jump is not 10 pounds in heavy club swinging because it's a lever that's rotating. The torque, the traction, and everything else makes a 10-pound jump not a 10-pound jump. It makes it much, much heavier than that through the range of movement of each exercise. It is 10 pounds for the balanced squat, but everything else it's not. Yes, so keep it on your time frame, keep it in your 20-minute time, set 1-minute repeating rounds, and just do a predictable number of reps for each one to work on your technique so you don't get tired. We don't want to get super tired if we're making big jumps in weight with clubs, because when we get tired during something like a shield cast, we're going to tweak something if we let go for even a split second. You've mentioned lots of push-ups and sit-ups overdevelop the front of your body at one point. Will kettlebell exercise mitigate that, or should you add in other exercises to balance out push-ups? No, kettlebells will totally solve that problem, which is why I talk about kettlebells so much. If you just do push-ups, pull-ups, and sit-ups, you will have an extraordinarily weak lower back, and you will not be good at rotation, and it will make you likely to get injured if you do something like impact sports. You could do something like deadlifts, but deadlifts with a bar, no cross-body stabilization. You're still going to be weak in rotation. You need anti-rotation in the training. All single-arm kettlebell is anti-rotation training, all of it. All single-arm club is anti-rotation training or rotation training. It goes back and forth between rotation training and anti-rotation training at different points in each individual movement. So yeah, if you were just to do push-ups and sit-ups and add in mill squat program, it would solve all the problems. If you would just do clean and press, it would probably solve the majority of the problems right away. No big deal at all with that. But yes, you can do so many sit-ups that you make your abdominal wall so strong that it pulls your spine out of alignment. I've done it at least 3 times before I figured out that I really needed to be doing single arm weight swinging of any type in order to counteract that. Single arm weight swinging is the thing that I think is most likely to solve people's athletic problems, even not knowing what they are. It's the easiest, it's the cheapest, it's the most repeatable, and it's the most scalable in order to solve problems that we don't even know about. Brock Brown. For a snatches density cycle, are the sets maintained at EMOM? I noticed that at one point it becomes time under tension. Yeah, that's the trick. It does become essentially time under tension. So let's lay this out first. Snatches, volume cycle, starting with a predictable number of reps. I like 5 and 5. 5 left, 5 right, put the weight down. EMOM, inside of 1 minute. 5 and 5, you should be able to, when you get good, have 30 to 35 seconds of break in every minute. You build up towards 20 sets. That gives you 100 total reps on each side, which is kind of our first basic goal. Then we start doing a density cycle where we collapse it to 16 sets of 6 in 16 minutes, 14 sets of 7 in 14 minutes, 12 sets of 8 in 12 minutes, and then it gets really mean, 11 sets of 9 in 11 minutes, 10 sets of 10 in 10 minutes is time under tension. It should be almost no break. It's going to try to trick people into keeping the weight in their hand for the entire 10 minutes. If they really start to turn and burn, then they're going to have 10 seconds to put it down, dry their hands, and go again. That is the point of that. And that math holds for most people up into the 28, 30, 32 range, depending on frame size for men. It breaks down above that, or it can break down above that. And for ladies in the 20, 24K, depending on frame size, of course, it breaks down above that. If that, so that's what density means, doing the same amount of work in less and less and less time. But if you're using heavier weights, or heavy weights for you, whatever that might be, then you could keep it at 20 minutes and divide your time and make your rounds a little bit longer each time so that you maintain the break. That's for people whose hands tend to fall apart, if their skin keeps ripping off because of technique issues and we want to keep our break periods long. I don't think I've ever talked about that on camera before, but you can do that in order to stretch people out. In order to try to get people to survive the training. Oftentimes, what will happen is people will do the volume cycle and then they'll do the density cycle and then they'll fail. They'll lose it or their hand will rip or something at like 12 sets of 8, and then we chop it right there. We do not complete the density cycle. We either alter the weight slightly with an adjustable competition kettlebell. You could adjust it by 1K and you would start the whole thing over. The whole point is that it goes volume cycle, density cycle, volume cycle, again with half reps. So there is a built-in rest phase in the training so that people don't kill themselves. You cannot go straight up on a straight line forever. The easiest way to make people good at snatches is to give them break periods in the beginning so their technique can stay good. Endurance is the unification of structure, breathing, and movement. Your breathing structure, your movement structure has to be good. Structure, breathing, and movement. Yeah, your movement to end up in the correct structure has to be good, so you're catching in the right way and catching at the bottom the right way. So if at any point you're running a volume cycle and a density cycle and it starts to fail or you think you're going to get hurt, chop it right there, immediately chop it, done. And then change your weight a little bit and usually 1 or 2K and start the whole thing over again. There will be a built-in down phase where you go back to sets of 5, you go back to having your long breaks, and you start back down at 6 to 8, 40 reps on each side, and you build your way back up to 100 reps on each side so that you don't die. The goal is to not die in all of the training. Everything I do is a trick to try to get people better, faster, right? So everybody does these different ways. I do it a specific way because I have to work with actors, or I used to before, the end times. And there are no excuses. You had to get them up in weight fast. They had to be doing a little bit harder every day so they stayed in the sexy range. And you try to do it without ripping their hands apart so that they could do all the stuff they needed to do on set, and so their hand didn't look fucking terrible on camera. If their hand is ripping, then something else is going to rip soon, and then you're going to cost shooting days, and you're not going to survive that as a trainer. Neil K. Jones, this is a good one. In a previous live talk, you mentioned hanging as a good way to open up the back shoulders. Any thoughts on various hand positions and lengths of time, etc., and the benefits of hanging? Well, it would be super cool to, arms straight up or slightly together, because that's the range that we are all lacking. We tend to be able to put our hands up without our hands together, with our hands wide, like Olympic lifters do. That's easier on our shoulder joint. Straight up is what we're really looking for in kettlebells, and if we want to get better at straight up, we would like to be slightly in of that. Usually a lower bar can work where your feet are still on the ground. Works pretty well for people because then they're not just putting pure stress on their hands. It takes some of the stress away from their hands so they can focus on pushing their chest forward or through so that they can work on the stretch that they need to work on. It's really a big chest stretch. Certainly is for me. All the stuff that I do, club and everything, requires chest to be a stabilizer. So if I don't have a place to hang, like I don't really have right now, then my chest starts to get tighter and I start to kind of round in a little bit. We would love to get to 2 minutes, but most people are not going to make that as a time frame. Most people are going to get to like 30 seconds to 1 minute in that time frame. If their feet are on the ground and they're pushing their chest through, they're going to get to about 1 minute, and then they're going to complement that with puppy dog stretch. I would like to say that like aerial circus arts like rope are great for opening up the thoracic spine, but they're not. Hanging from a bar is way better because in rope you hang with your hands together, and that pushes your body back, so it closes your chest off yet again, like heavy club swinging does. So bar, palm faces away, I think is the most important one, but of course if you had gas still in the tank, then you could do palms towards you. When you're doing puppy dog, you're already kind of doing thumbs towards the sky by having your hands all the way together, so that one tends to get covered that way. But yes, hanging is absolutely fantastic. It's just really hard on most people because most people don't have grip strength, and most kettlebellers have fried hands at the end of every session, so it tends to be hard. So you tend to balance your hanging with puppy dog stretch. Timothy says, reshoot the essential videos. That's a great, okay, I'll do it. Curtis Melby, how do you manage volume cycle increases across a concurrent ABC program without overtaxing weekly work capacity too much? Should someone initially only ramp one program at a time? Yes. All your volume cycles do not start on the same day. Not at all, or the same weights. The whole point is that you need one volume cycle if you're doing a bunch of different programs that are all running on different types of math. One of them needs to be light, one of them needs to be heavy, one of them needs to be high rep, one of them needs to be low rep, so that you can balance your capacity. If you try to start a bunch of volume cycles for a bunch of different exercises all on the same day and they all go straight up, you're gonna frag out super fast because you're gonna be adding a lot of extra reps per workout every time. And there needs to be a wave in all of training in order to keep you alive. Anything that's a straight vertical ascent, not going to work out in the long run. It might work for 4 to 6 weeks and then it's going to crash. So the whole point is that everything starts at a slightly different time or different weights in order to build in a randomization into the idea itself. So excellent question. Yes, they should all be running slightly differently so that you do not fry yourself. That's one of the reasons I like to run kettlebells with clubs and things like swings with clean and press and Turkish get up, all in these different ways. So they all have different weights. They all have different progressions. And even though you're moving forward with everything, no workout is ever the same by sheer fact of combining them in different ways. If you're running something like mill squat with kettlebells, it's, the mill squat program could be on heavier weight, lower level. It could be on higher level, lower weight. Same thing with your swings. You have a heavy light. If you have a swing heavy light, then your clean and press should be light heavy. That way they're not all going up at the same time. And because they're all slightly different versions of math, most of them don't peak at the same time. So a swing program doesn't peak at the same time as, say, a mill squat program does. Because in swing program, what do you have? Like 6, 8, 10, 12, that's 2 weeks, 14, 16, 18, 20, it's 4 weeks. So it's really a 4-week cycle. Whereas something like mill squat done 6 times is really a 3-week cycle. So they should be kicking off of each other. That's why I designed them that way. And yes, I do think about that all the time. So excellent question. Yes, everything should kick off of each other. If you're starting a bunch of programs at once, run one program straight up for a little while so it gets ahead of everything else. So that heavy, whatever's the heavy nasty thing, isn't lining up with everything else. So they don't all peak at the same time. With a double 24 kettlebell, so 2 24 kettlebells as gear, how would you fix a program for heavy cleans and light squats? Double cleans, goblet squats, deck squats. 24K, double 24K is 48K, single 24K, light heavy. Yeah, that's an easy way. Run deck squats. They're not easy. Even a light deck squat is hard. Especially if you start doing a volume cycle of them. It gets real nasty real fast. Easiest way to give people legs and abs the fastest, by far, deck squat, combined with something like clean and press or Turkish get up mastery programs. How long warm-up you do before club training? Mikhail Eltonen. Some syntax differences there. How long do you warm up before club bell training? 8 minutes, 6 to 12 minutes. If I'm feeling lazy, I'll be honest, I do 6. I get pretty lazy with everything that I'm doing all the time. So 6 minutes. If I'm feeling really good, I like a solid 10-minute warm-up. And if I'm really, really beat up from the previous day, it is 12 minutes. What does that include? It includes neck, it includes shoulders, it includes hip, and it includes spine every time. Those are the things that I care about the most. I tend not to trash my elbows because I've been doing clubs so long that my elbows traction themselves every time I swing weights. So I tend not to have to do things like elbow stretches. Or grip stretch for the most part. I put elbow, if I'm gonna put elbow in something, I don't put it in warm up, I put it in cool down, which is not how everybody else does it. Other people will tell you not to do that. If you're a bodybuilder, you definitely need to warm up your elbows because you will have short tendons in there and you will thrash yourself if you don't. But I tend not to deal with that as much. If people do their warm up focusing on neck, shoulder, hip, spine, and then they start with a light enough weight, then their elbows will learn to traction themselves doing heavy club swinging. So yeah, somewhere between 6 and 12 minutes. Timothy Sviter. Thanks for the videos and content. No problem. Curious where you were shooting your videos from. It used to be Hollywood. It used to be my studio in Hollywood. Now it's wherever I'm at. You can tell I've been here for a while now, for like 6 to 8 weeks, and I've been coming back and forth to this location, so I've been shooting a lot of stuff in this barn because it's the only place I have available to me right now. It's semi-quiet. And the ponies, that guy keeps trying to kill me. He tries to eat me all the time. He's an asshole. But I do it wherever. I shot a ton of videos during quarantine. I left the city because you couldn't do anything. And I went out to the mountains and I shot around Utah and Colorado, specifically the Central Valley of Colorado, by like Mont Vista. I think it's Mont Vista. A little bit by Salida, some up by Poncha Springs. I shot some in Idaho. All the really green stuff I shoot in Washington State up north of Seattle. I shot some stuff in Arkansas and a little bit in South Carolina. So I shoot wherever I'm at. I set myself a goal of trying to get in 6 days a week of videos. Right now it's 5 videos plus 1 live, and that started in spring. Up until that, I shot 7 videos a week, which was just really hard. I really do need a day to let my brain semi-calm down and relax so I can think of things that I should be doing instead of just being caught up in dealing with technical issues all the time. So I shoot wherever I'm at. And I want to do it that way because I want people to see that you can shoot, you can train wherever you are. I think a lot of the stuff in the fitness industry is not great because they do it with fancy clothes and they do it in fancy locations and they do it with $1 million equipment or whatever. I'm from here. You know, I grew up on a farm. I grew up on a dirt road for the first couple years of my life. I grew up then on a horse farm, a place where you worked every day, and you worked out in the barn because that's what you had available to you in the winter, or you worked out in the summer and you dealt with bees and everything else and all those little, bugs that get at you. And I think that not enough training is being shown to people to be able to be done anywhere. People used to, when I first started making videos, be like, why don't you wear workout clothes? And I said, because I don't think you need workout clothes. And I still don't wear workout clothes. I don't wear workout clothes to work out in. The closest thing to workout clothes I have is a pair of like Rogue Ranger panties. And that's it. So it's either, if I'm working out outside in the winter, it's jeans and boots, or jeans and socks with like barefoot shoes on, and t-shirts, just whatever you have. I don't think people need to worry about fancy locations or fancy equipment or fancy clothes. I think that people should really spend their money not on fancy shit, but they should spend it on like living life. So you should work out wherever you're at, and there should be no excuses for where you're at to not try to maintain your health so that you can adventure. That's all I'm trying to get people to do. So yeah, I used to shoot in Hollywood. I'll be back in Hollywood starting tomorrow night. I'm flying out there because I need a camera person to help me finish up a whole pile of programs. I'm trying to finish up Turkish Get Up Master, which is a big, dope, awesome program, which will keep people occupied for an extremely long period of time. So I need to finish that, but I need a camera person to help me do it. I can't do it myself. I keep trying. I can't get the cameras. It takes way too long. If I fly out there, I can do it in 3 days, maybe get the final bit of shooting for that done and upload that, get that ready to go. Krav 1 is coming out. It's all shot. I need to do my part and finish up the PDF, and I'm going to try to do that this week, next week. And then I've got 4 more bodyweight programs that need explainers and everything else. It's easier to find people who know how to hold a camera in LA because they're everywhere. It's amazing to me. I keep trying to hire people in the Midwest and stuff, and it's shocking to me that people can't point a camera, but you do it, you do what you can. I can't find anybody to help me in the Midwest properly, or they all want some absurd amount of money. It's like they went to film school and they think that they should make more than people who work on $200 million movies. And I'm not paying people who don't know what they're doing a ton of money. I'm not paying people more than what's paid by the union for a $200 million movie, that's for sure. So I'll be back out and I'll be shooting on rooftops in Gambate Fitness and probably out by Joshua Tree or Landers or 29 Palms in the next month. And then we'll be back up in Seattle and we'll shoot some videos up there, maybe if I can get a camera person. John Doe, is training chest isolation important? I never feel my chest during my swing or 360 exercise, and I feel my shoulders more during any press or get up. Will your chest be lacking if you don't? Yeah, if you don't, chest is really a stabilizer muscle. We only think that it needs to be huge and well developed because of bodybuilding and because of like military guys. Military guys, it's not that push-ups are the best exercise for people to do. Kettlebell long cycle is the best exercise to do if you wanted people to be Captain America. But push-ups are easy to make a bunch of people do everywhere. So people have developed this idea that the chest needs to be really big and that chest is going to make you be in shape. That is less true than I think that it should be. Push-ups do have a place. Dips are better than push-ups. Honestly, dips are better than push-ups. Push-ups are part of a get-up, and you should do them to support get-ups. But a lot of people just do push-ups because they want to get a big chest, because they want to look like they can do stuff, not so much that they want to do stuff. And that's just the way that we've been programmed by TV and movies and everything else. The guy with the big chest is the hero, right? But if you really wanted to build athleticism, it would be long cycle. Long cycle is way better than something like push-ups, but it's harder. Do you need to do chest? No, it's really a stabilizer for most stuff. It's a stabilizer for clean and press, it's a stabilizer for jerk. It's a supporting muscle in things like pulling action, like pull-ups. It's a supporting muscle group in heavy club swinging or throwing patterns or punching patterns. But is it super necessary to do? No, it's fun to do, and people tend to do it if they want to look sexier. That's what they do. Howdy.
Howdy. Must be picking up some oxygen?
Front door right there. Give it a knock.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, I lost that question. So is chest isolation important? Yes. I mean, if you want to look sexy, sure. If you're going to be shirtless in a movie or you're a male model, definitely. If you're just a normal, everyday person, no, not useful at all. The most useful thing would be to do your clean and press, your long cycle, and then something like dips. Do dips. Do dips. Do Russian dips. Do all the dope dips. But once again, the cooler they get, usually the more equipment they require, the more expensive they therefore become, which is why push-ups are good because they're cheap. What can I do if I only have 2 15-kilogram kettlebells? A lot. Learn to not put them down for 30 minutes. Alfonso S. 2 15K kettlebells can be brutal, right? Just don't put them down for 20 minutes. That's a psychotic idea. So 15K is just under what we consider to be light men's weight, 16K. So I don't know where he got 15Ks from, but that puts him in the 33 pound weight. 2 33s together equals, in the 65, 66 pound range. Do double clean and jerk for 10 minutes without putting them down and get up to doing 130 reps in that amount of time. You can do, that's not so light that it's useless, right? Getting down into something like double 12s for big dudes, not super useful because they're not enough weight, but 15K is a useful weight. It's in that range of what has been considered light kettlebell weights forever. So you can do a ton with two 15Ks. Just start building up your time under tension. You can do double clean and press and do a volume cycle with it. Do gorilla cleans or alternating cleans, right? There's tempo cleans, there's tempo clean and press, and then start stacking it up for time. Try doing two 15K gorilla clean, alternating clean for 90 seconds. It's bonkers. You're gonna get nearly 90 reps in there. It's savage. If you make it, it's a miracle. You can do a lot with two 15s. You can do double box squats. You can do double box squat volume cycles. Drop the height of your box down. Do double box squat to boat so that you're holding an abdominal contraction. There's a ton of stuff you can do. You're only limited by your imagination. Conveniently, I have provided you with like 800 YouTube videos to help you learn to expand your imagination. Have you ever worked with anyone who could do regular mills but couldn't figure out reverse mills? Not once, not ever. No, it's not a thing. That's a training thing. If you can't figure out how to do reverse mills, that's a training thing. You did not do all of your basics at all if you can't do reverse mills. Inside circle, outside circle, shield cast. Outside circle is the basis of your mill. If you're not doing your outside circle, you're going to fail. Then you have your pullover. Then you have your 180 rotating pullover. If you can do an outside circle and a rotating 180 pullover, you can do reverse mills. People who say they can't do reverse mills have tried to skip steps. Do not skip steps. All the steps are there because you should be able to do mills and reverse mills equally well for equal amounts of time with the same weight in order to make sure you're not setting yourself up for injury later on. If you can't do reverse mills, you tried to skip steps. Could you, Yazan, hey Yazan of Sweden, I'm always going to call you Yazan of Sweden because I love the way that sounds. Sorry guys, I do things in my head by how things sound in my head. Could you explain different breathing techniques and strategy for fast recovery between sets and time under tension protocols like slam ball and the body weight program? There's classic breathing techniques, chugging, bouncing your body up and down. God, I don't know how to explain this in 5 minutes. It's a long topic. Focus on the exhale and focus on rapid exhales so your body inhales. And then they shake the body. You'll see boxers do this before rounds, right? They're shaking out. They're trying to get rid of tension so that their body can recover faster. Summer Huntington calls it chugging, where you chug breath, where you bounce your body in order to create waves to cause relaxation of tension and focus on exhales. Usually I would think chugging for probably 10 seconds, and then I like to do 3 establishing breaths after that. I haven't done this in a long time because I haven't run those types of training in a long time. So it would be chug, it would be focus on your exhales, shake your body, and then establish and then go. Short version of a very, very long topic, Yazan. There's a bunch of different breathing techniques, but that's kind of the fast, dirty one for something like body weight training. I see the sun. Have you heard of Pavel Tsatsouline's Simple and Sinister? What are your thoughts about it? I think it's brilliant. Of course, I've heard of Simple and Sinister. Everybody in the kettlebell world has heard of Simple and Sinister because it's simple. It's just sometimes too simple. So Simple and Sinister focuses on kettlebell swings, and it focuses on Turkish get-up. If you just do swings and Turkish get-up, you will have a pretty good overall base. It's an excellent way to get fit in 10 minutes a day. 4 days a week, swings twice a week, Turkish get-up twice a week. You got a total of 40 minutes. It's an excellent strategy. I can't remember what his timing protocol is. What I do is like 15 years of evolution of that, where people are trying to move up. So simple and sinister would be like repeat. I think it was 10 sets of 10, and you do it for X number of weeks. So it's really hard at the beginning, it's easy at the end. What I do is slightly different than that, is I do like, in swings, we start at 8 reps, and then we go to 10 reps, and we go to 12 reps, and we walk our way up towards 20 reps. And then we alternate that with different varying weights to try to get people a different workout every time, number-wise or weight-wise, so that there's different load every time, so that people adapt faster. So instead of keeping the block the same and trying to adapt to the block, we're changing the block in a predictable way each time to trick people into thinking that something is easier than it is. Turkish get-up, you can be done in a ton of ways. I can't remember how he does it in Simple and Sinister. It's been 15 years or whatever since I saw that book. But I tend to find it doesn't work for everybody. Some people need to do breakdown exercises. So I think of Simple and Sinister as working very well for people of intermediate to advanced athletic ability at some point in their life. I tend to focus my training on on people who don't have as much athletic training or who are further deconditioned and need small steps in order to improve all the way. So you'll notice people who do Pavel stuff tend to be ex-athletes or military guys or they're bigger guys, powerlifters, all these other guys. So the methods are marketed and designed for different populations. Mine is designed for people who live on a dirt road with no equipment in the middle of nowhere and who need to have a different learning protocol each time to trick them into getting better at the technique. Yeah, Simple and Sinister is fantastic. Lovely program. Genius stuff. Excellent. Any tips for rugby training with kettlebell? 1 million. Do lots of kettlebell training. You rugby guys are psychopaths. I didn't even know what rugby was when I was growing up, because I grew up in Ohio. We just did not have rugby. I didn't know what rugby was until I went to college at USC in California, where I saw rugby for the first time and was like, wow, why didn't we have that? That's like sport perfected. Everything in kettlebells, almost everything you do in kettlebells will make you better at rugby training. Obviously, double clean and press, double long cycle, armor, building complexes. You're essentially just going to use kettlebells, metabolic conditioning, longer periods of time, and replace all your barbell moves with kettlebells. And then, of course, have some single arm days where you work on endurance. 5-minute sets, 1-minute sets. You do 1 minute of cleans, 2 minutes of cleans with super heavy weights. Everything. We could talk about rugby for kettlebells all the time. But the main thing is, in rugby, what do you have? Lots of impact stress and running. So everything in kettlebells will help you do that. Single arm kettlebell will help you cross-body stabilization. So when you get hit cross-body, you're less likely to get snapped in half. And everything is hamstring load. So all the muscles that you need for running are being built up. Something like double long cycle will build your calf power, your explosive calf power. And then, yeah, I mean, we could write 1 million programs for that. Everything in double kettlebelling, moving up in weight will be good for you guys. Hello from Glasgow, Craig Taylor. Love Glasgow. Great, beautiful train station. Beautiful downtown. Beautiful downtown. Man, what a downtown in Glasgow. One of my favorite cities in the world. Brandon Shinholster. I'm not sure if that's a real name or if that's a joke. But Shinholster is a hilarious joke if it's a joke. I have an 8X club. I've been doing inside circles, outside circles. So there are any tips or go-to moves to target building the arches of your feet? Yeah, all the single arm stuff. Point your feet straight ahead. If your feet are not pointed straight ahead, it's not going to work. And then go up and weight. Volume cycle, density cycle. Every time you swing that weight, your glute's going to fire. It's going to travel down your leg. It's going to try to cause your arch to fire. Your knees are going to try to stabilize. If your feet are not pointed straight ahead, it will not work. If you need to, over point your feet in 5 degrees on each side. Look down every time you change hands to make sure your feet are in the right spot. Oftentimes people won't notice and their heel will start to drift and they'll end up back turned out again. Yeah, go up and wait, do the basics. It'll work in 6 months. It's not fast. You have to give your arches thousands of opportunities to fire in the correct position for them to learn to fire. If you have flat feet, then your brain hasn't been using that part effectively. The connection, brain-body connection there is not good. Overturning your feet in can very much help because it'll force your ankles into the right position, which will try to get your arch to fire better. And then you just got to do lots of it and go up in weight. The heavier the weight, the better it's going to work. But you can only go up at a certain pace. Anthony Vasquez, he's gotten into wrestling. What are good exercises for slamming people? Slam ball, hug squat, 100% is the foundation, rock bottom, so you can get into that position, power up, and then shoulder to shoulder. Everything in the slam ball program is for you as a wrestler, and ground to shoulder, but hug squat or that front hug catch, shoulder to shoulder, starts to build your foundation for that. And then you can do the same thing with heavy bags, which is super fun, where you pick up a heavy bag, you verticalize a heavy bag, you pick it up, you power up and you throw it over a shoulder. And then you can even turn that into the wrestler's shoot. Well, I can't remember what they call that thing. God, my terminology is terrible when it comes to this. But yeah, all of your hug squats, all of them, and all of your shin box, for sure. All of your shin box variations will get you into that. The ground to shoulder will help you build the explosive power. The hug squat's the range of motion, the ground to shoulder is the power. And then there's the power, and then you start adding stepping patterns to it. And then you copy all of your stepping patterns from wrestling, and you start building that. Where can I find a good library of basic wrestling moves, video library? We just turn that whole thing into a specific sport-specific program, easy. Clint Engel. Yeah. Having trouble mastering the drop from the top of the snatch. I've watched your snatch videos, but I still can't get it right with a heavier weight. Could you discuss this point? Yeah, everybody has that problem. So this happens a lot when people stick to the classic weights, 16, 24, and 32K kettlebelling, because a snatch is brutal, because the kettlebell's falling twice as far as it does with a swing or a clean. Usually it's hand position on the bell itself that is ripping people apart. Usually people get to the top and they're in their 45 degree catch, and when they go over, it rips along their hand, compressing this portion of their hand and eventually tearing this and then catching in their hand here. And then they don't get a thumb grip, they're catching in monkey grip. We all did it. Everybody who does kettlebell starts that way. And the secret is to do a lot. Everybody's going to do that. And then you have to think about your hand position at the top and at the bottom. And now you have to worry about whether it's thumb down, as it is taught in the beginning to keep people from ripping their elbow out, or advanced style, which is thumb up. With a really heavy weight, it's usually that drop transition through the hand. And so that you have an option. You can either crush grip at the top as you go down and get your thumb on it, overlocking your top finger, or you can just skip that part of your hand entirely and commit to the monkey grip, which is how I did it for a long time, because I didn't have all the weights in between. So you either had lightweight where it was easy or a heavyweight where it was hard. And you just skipped that part of your hand entirely and got stronger fingers. There's really not a good answer for that other than start with a lightweight, slow it down, Run your volume cycles until you're not shifting inside your hand, and then go up the smallest unit you have. 2K or 1K.
I'm getting ready to egress.
Sorry, people running in and out of the front of the barn here. The best answer is to run your volume cycles like 50 times. Like, snatches are not easy, and you are not going to get good at them in a short period of time. I don't care what anybody says. There's a lot of micro movement happening in there. Where you catch between the legs, how high you catch. Are you catching with bent legs? Are you catching soft style? Usually people start with a hard style movement first, and they catch thumb back first. And then they would go run a bunch of volume cycles up so that they can work on just getting the transition. Thousands of reps to work on the transition between 45 and finger catch. And then go to like thumb back soft style legs, which is double bounce in the back, and then run a bunch of volume cycles. And then after that, go to thumb up soft style catch. Snatches are not easy. They are a fast way to get a lot of benefit in a little bit of time, but the point of the volume cycle is to try to keep people from ripping their hands apart. But you're going to be working on that forever. If your catch at the top is good, getting to the bottom, taming the arc, keeping your elbow close to your body as you go down, and keeping your thumb all up in your business at the bottom so that the kettlebell is close to your groin as possible is how it needs to be done. If you're dropping down below that, if your kettlebell is too low at the bottom of your swing, you're just going to thrash yourself. You're going to thrash your hand or your lower back, either one first. So tight to the body, tight to the body, tight to the body. Craig Taylor would love to see more of the Seas of Civilization videos. What would be interesting to see what's in your kit or backpack for different traveling situations? I don't know if anybody wants to see. I don't know if I want to show anybody what's in my psychotic backpacks. I never travel without like get home stuff. And the 5 C's of civilization are also the 5 C's of survivability as laid down by Dave Canterbury, who is the Pathfinder School LLC down in Southern Ohio. I need to get to some of his classes this fall. That guy has done more for my ability to organize information in a bunch of weird ways than anybody, because he does things like lay out the 5 C's. Your 5 C's of survivability are your combustion source, your cutting tool, your container, your cordage, and your cover. Those are also the 5 C's of civilization, which I realized when I spent 5 months wandering in and out, no, way longer than that, wandering in and out of the British Museum in the center of London. So I stayed in the center of London. I didn't pay for it. Somebody else paid for it. The studio paid for it. For 9 months, like twice. And for every weekend for like 5 months, I would go in and out of the British Museum as my Saturday, as my day off. Lovely exploration. I'd go do a wing or a section and read all the note cards and everything. And what you start to notice is that the 5 C's of civilization and the 5 C's of survivability are the exact same thing. So they were called survivability. I call them civilization because if you go into any museum for any culture, you will see those 5 things. If you go into the Egypt section, what do you see? You see stone tools, some of the most intricate, amazing stone flaked tools that I have ever seen. I didn't even know that that was possible. You see containers, you see jars, right? We know that they had cordage because they had all their textiles and everything else, which is their cover element. They definitely had fire, which is something you see a lot less of in museums, but you'll still find light sources, lamps, all these other things from different civilizations, torches and all these other things. And then I started to notice that it really changed the way I looked at civilization and the world, and how every time I go somewhere, I try to find a museum and go to it, even if it's those little shitty museums in small towns that are all over Ohio, because you're going to see the same things in a museum in Stuttgart, Arizona. And you're going to see cutting tools, you're going to see containers, you're going to see the cover elements, you're going to see the cordage, you're going to see the combustion sources or the candling devices. In my backpack, I never go anywhere with without a pile of Bic lighters wrapped in duct tape or Gorilla Tape, because Gorilla Tape can be a tinder because it's an oil-based product. You can light it, it burns like a candle, you can start fire. A magnifying glass, little tiny magnifying glass, is in my chest rig that's always in my bag. And a ferro rod, but they keep taking my ferro rods away from me at airports now, which I totally hate. So three ways to start fire. Containers. I don't know if you guys see this, but you'll see this in videos or in pictures. I tend to have a shoulder strap with a steel bottle on it. Right now, it is a Hyperfly double-walled bottle, but you can't use that for disinfecting water or anything. But I also have in my bag a 32-ounce single-walled stainless steel bottle. And I just got myself a fancy new stainless steel canteen with a wide mouth that goes in an old French military 1-liter steel canteen case that I had, because I have a bunch of those. And then you always have your cutting tools. There's always a belt knife in my bag, probably 3. Some type of Leatherman's always in there, and my pocket knife, because I am huge on cutting tools. As anybody who grew up on a farm knows, cutting tools are king. And cutting tools for different things are amazing. And then I almost always have weird cover elements, even if I'm going to the desert. Like, I always have extra wool clothes, wool shirts, wool t-shirts, wool button-down shirts for every environment. It's a little bag. It's all rolled up and it goes in there. Smart wool socks, all that type of stuff. Some type of shade element. I'd almost never find me without some type of scarf. And you'll see me with big scarves that cover your neck when I ride motorcycles or in the desert, because I spent a lot of time in the desert in the last 20 years. Always some type of scarf. Never gone without a scarf. And always gloves. Those are kind of your basic things that always end up in your bag on top of everything else. And then in my duffel bag, of course, there's extra shit that I never use, but it's always there. Usually rain gear. The rain gear that's currently residing in my duffel bag is UF Pro. Look these guys up. They're like some kind of weird Slavic military company, and they made some rain gear, and I bought that for a movie when I was over in Europe, and it was super expensive, and it's pretty nice. But I would really like some better type of rain gear. I would really like a traditional frock coat length rain gear with bi-swing sleeves and an underarm vent and a hood. Nobody makes one. How is that possible that nobody makes the piece of gear that's been constant in Western civilization for the last 300 years? No idea, but if I ever get enough money, I will make a product line, and I will definitely make that, because that should be in everybody's bag all the time too. Some type of frock coat with gaiters, but it should be knee length, and it should be split in the back, and it should have bi-swing sleeves and all that other stuff, but nobody makes that stuff anymore. I don't know why. Everything that's made for outdoors gear now is absolutely ridiculous and stupid, and I can't stand it. I mean, I would love to team up with somebody like Ariat or Carhartt and make a real clothing line for people who work for a living and who don't want it to cost a fortune and want it to work. Nobody's doing that. It blows my mind. There's no good rain gear taught, even in places where rains are sold, even in places where it rains all the time. Although Glasgow does have some pretty good rain gear, but not great rain gear. I would love to start a line of just raincoats and change the world, because everything that's available now is not good. Let's see if we can find something else here. We're at 83 minutes now. The pandemic taught you that you'll never need a gym. False profiteer. Hey, great name. Great name. And yes, we don't really need gyms. Gyms exist because they're really social spaces, or they should be. One of my favorite guys to watch on Instagram is Joey Swole. And he's this huge, awesome bodybuilder dude. And he people are constantly trash talking other people in the gym and making videos about it. And he just gets on them and says, don't do that. That's not what the gym is for. And I love that. That's a good message. I stopped going to the gym years ago, especially in Hollywood, because it's not fun. It is a semi-aggressive, gross environment. Things are people are mean. There's not enough squat racks. There's never enough squat racks in a gym. There's never enough pull-up bars in a gym. So gyms just aren't what they should be. They should be a communal space where people get together and work on things. And CrossFit really made that the best it can be. CrossFit has excellent culture. Like, I love going to CrossFit Combate, now called Combate Fitness. They changed the name, in LA. It's fun. I show up, I haven't seen people in 6 months to a year. I walk in, hey, how you doing? Everybody knows each other. There's dogs in the gym. It's awesome. That's what gyms should be. They should be a place where you go to fill like a workout need. You learn something, you learn from other people, you help teach other people, and everybody has a communal feeling. It should be a community. And like, big box gyms are not a community. Big box gyms are everybody wants to be left alone. They have their headphones on. Everybody's doing something dumb. Nobody wants to let you work in. You're not allowed to drop barbells, even if you're lifting heavy for some reason. You can't do pull-ups. You can't do muscle-ups. They absolutely hate you if you kettlebell inside of a gym like that. I've been thrown out of gyms just for doing 10-minute sets of kettlebelling in various parts of the world. Gyms should be communal spaces, but they're not. They also cost money to get to. Just getting to the gym, like the nearest semi good gym here is 30 miles away, 30 miles each way. So now you got to drive there, you got to drive back, you got to do all this stuff. It adds time to your day, so it makes it unlikely for people to do it. That's one of the reasons I tell people to go to martial arts schools, because you can do all your strength training, your kettlebell, and your clubbing at home on your own schedule. And you can go to a martial arts school and be a part of a community and learn a skill. And that's worth the drive. Going to a normal gym for me isn't worth the drive when gas is so expensive and you're not allowed to do anything. I tried to go to a gym close to this small town that I'm in, and they wouldn't even let me in the door. I got thrown out before I even got in because I didn't look right. I literally got told they don't need my kind here at that gym because they said I looked like a scary white dude because I'm bald. I don't know if they know this, but I actually have a giant bald spot. So I think gyms are not great and you don't need them. If you're gonna go to a gym, then you need to go to some place with a community base to it. Just random gyms, I don't think are worth it anymore. They're not nice, they're not clean, they're expensive, they cost too much money. Yeah, and I will harp on that forever just because I haven't had a good experience in a commercial gym in 10 years. It's been 10 years since I enjoyed going to a commercial gym. Hello, Akram Ali from Saudi Arabia. Thanks for watching, buddy. Haven't been to Saudi Arabia. I did do work on a movie in Dubai. It is hot there. It is very, very hot there. It's hot. It's hot. It's like 135 degrees in the desert, and you're out in the sun. Brutal. But humans can live anywhere because we are adaptable creatures. Did something happen that led to you being prepared like a Boy Scout when you go out to the woods? I bring for better or worse, probably worse, much less. Yeah. General life stuff happens. You should not go out into the backcountry without stuff. That is how people die. People die in Griffith Park, which is in the center of LA. It's in the center of LA. You can see the city on both sides. It's entirely surrounded by city. And people die up there every year. Every year. I used to live right on the edge of Griffith Park, so I could walk right up into it, into the pine forest part. If anybody knows that part by the 5, there's a big pine forest right there. Not big, 3 or 4 acres of pines right there. We used to climb right up in there. People die up there every year because they go up there and it's hot and they're hungover and they don't bring water, and then they just die every year. People die at the Salton Sea every year. People die dirt biking every year because they ride a dirt bike. Like, I got a dirt bike, not thinking that they're going to ride a dirt bike off a cliff. And then they suddenly realize that they didn't bring tools or something that is 10 miles back through a 120-degree desert, and they decided they didn't need water, and they die 2 miles back. That stuff happens all the time. You should always be prepared in some way if you want to do stuff with your life. Cell phones don't work a lot of places, certainly a lot of places I go. The Central Valley of Colorado, you can be 60 miles from town. There's some houses out there and you can see them, they're 20 miles away, but you got to cross 20 miles of cactus and desert to get there, and there's no water out there. There's no stuff out there. People live in the modern world and they think the whole world is accessible because they don't get far off the beaten path. You should always have a plan to get out of wherever you're going to get to, because that's just good, basic, solid adventuring technique. Even if your adventure is just going for a walk around town or flying to another country for vacation or whatever, you should always understand what's going on and figure out how to have a path out of there. That's important. It's a basic human skill. And we don't talk about that much anymore, but we all should. We should all understand what are the foundational aspects of civilization, what makes civilization possible, and what makes civilization fragile, right? The power goes off for 5 days in Los Angeles. That place is going to be a war zone because there's 3 days of food, and without water pumping in, that place is a death land, right? It's a death zone. So there should always be a plan for something, even if it's just to help people. Do you have med kits in your car? And do you have training on how to put on a tourniquet? That's important information. And everybody doesn't think it's necessary until they need it. You should always need it. You should always be prepared to need it. So you should always have medical kits, right? Blowout bags. You need chest seals. You need chest decompression needles. You need training on all of that. You need blood stop. You need H bandages. You need Israeli bandages. You need Z gauze. You need, what am I forgetting here? Chest seals. You need all that stuff, right? People come off of dirt bikes all the time and fly into a bush and puncture a lung and then die, right? You should have a chest seal. Why not? You can go on your dirt bike. It's fine. Go on your horse. People die falling off of horses all the time for all of human history. You should just be prepared. It's just good human stuff. It's the same way as knowing how to cook. Like, getting through life without knowing how to cook is not a great thing. You should know these basic things, right? You should know how to use a knife. You know how to sharpen a knife. A knife is the most foundational tool other than a stick in all of human civilization. And I don't think you should go anywhere without it. I don't care what people tell you. I don't think you should go backpacking in Scotland without a knife. I don't think you should do that. BJJ in judo was great for socialization, while the big box gym was for alone time. All right, Frank, cool. I'll take that. Gyms are for people who feel like they can't exercise without them, from Russell. True. Most people have been told they need a gym. You've been conditioned that you need a gym. People are not provided with the amount of education they need in order to not need a gym. That's all I'm doing, right? That's my entire goal. Here's a big piece of iron with a handle on it. We're going to teach you everything you can do with this, and we're going to keep coming up with stuff to do with this for a very long period of time so that you don't need a gym. You should be in control of your own health, and being in control of your own health comes from knowledge, comes from education. And I'll give you guys as much education as I can give you, and you can go find it from other people as well. The more education you have, the better your life gets. Very simple. Very simple. You should understand how to stay healthy, what to do with everything, with some equipment, with clubs, with no equipment. You should know what to do in a gym. You should know what to do in a martial arts school. You should know about riding bikes. You should know about reading maps. You should know about sharpening knives. You should know about cooking food. These are all basic things that we need to know in order to live a good life. Russell, correct. He says that the health industry doesn't like people who are self-motivated and look like they're getting results. That is also correct, right? I get thrown out of gyms for just knowing what I'm doing. I went into a gym, where was I at? I don't know, maybe somewhere in England. I think it was in London. And I was looking around and I found a kettlebell in the corner, one shitty kettlebell in the corner. And I proceeded to pick it up and not put it down for 30 minutes. And I just cycled through movements for 30 minutes. And at the end of it, the manager came up and said, we don't want you in this gym. You're making our trainers look bad. And I was like, great, awesome, cool. I got thrown out of the gym for knowing what I was doing. That has happened to me several times. What do you think about a movement trainer like Ido Portal from Lucas Vasquez? Great name, Alien 2, Vasquez. What do you think about Ido Portal? I think Ido Portal is a genius who doesn't write short enough programs. Ido Portal has some interesting things that I have heard in little clips of his. He wants people to work out for 4 hours a day. You have to be super rich to pull that off. Like, you have to be independently wealthy to work out for 4 hours a day, right? Your average person, even if they're only working an 8-hour day, still has travel time. Let's call that 10 hours a day. You're already up to 10. Let's talk about breakfast. Let's talk about cool down and shower at night, right? Where did your average person find 4 hours a day to work out? Is it cool what he does? Absolutely. The world needs people like him to make the rest of us think about what is possible. The problem is, I don't know if there's a 20-minute version of anything he does. I write for me. I write for somebody who grew up working. I had 3 jobs in high school and went to school and went to college in high school. Who has 4 hours? I put in an hour a day and I barely slept. 4 hours a day is way too much. I think what he does is very, very cool. I would love to take all of his stuff at some point when I have time to do it, and then figure out how to convert it into a repeatable, trainable engineering format. You could just go do capoeira and go do a social class and learn 90% of the stuff that he's teaching, because he's teaching a ton of capoeira-based movements. Something that I don't agree with that he says is that if you haven't mastered your body weight, you shouldn't be lifting weights. I think that is 100% wrong. 100% wrong. That is something who's had a lot of training in gymnastics says. That is not what normal people say. The majority of people in all of human history were not gymnasts and acrobats, and they all did just fine lifting weights. The thing with lifting weights is if you are deconditioned or overweight, lifting weights is the path forward. Doing Jenga and then all the hand flips and stalls and stuff, if you're 200 pounds overweight, is not realistic. That is not a strategy. That is a strategy for failure and death. But getting a super light kettlebell and learning to do clean and press and then taking it up 1K and repeating the process, and then going up 1K and repeating the process and going up 1K and repeating the process is an excellent way to teach people the most important things. Lifting and carrying is one of those fundamental aspects of Herbertism that I talk about a lot. And you can start with a lightweight and you can control that. It's very hard for people who are not very skinny or who did not have a gymnastics background growing up to start just doing handstand push-ups. And if you can't do one, doing it for 4 hours ain't gonna help. So I love Ido Portal. I would like to see it condensed more. I see something as like Animal Flow as an outgrowth of a lot of Ido Portal's ideas, but focused into a learnable, smaller, more doable format. And then what I do, I'd like to call my bodyweight program Strategic Animal. I don't know if that's cool or not. I like the way it sounds. But I'm trying to get it down to those 20-minute, 30-minute, 40-minute blocks of training that have very predictable outcomes. Granted, I do not know everything about Ido Portal's training because, frankly, just the idea that I have to do it for 4 hours is something that I'm not going to do because who has that much time? Touch Butt is a 4-hour program. McGregor forgot about how to kick after it. Yes, Iron Buddha, that is correct. What they should have been doing for McGregor was observe, orient, decide, and act. And they should have analyzed all of, who was it, Diaz? Was he fighting Diaz during that? All of Diaz's moves, and then had somebody replicate Diaz's moves inside of other things, and then try to get a specific outcome movement for each one of those input moves. Ido Portal teaches awesome physical skills. Are they directly applicable to whatever you need to do? No. It's the same way as learning Kung Fu. There's a lot of esoteric stuff that goes on, but most people don't care about the esoteric part. They care about part not getting hit in the face. I used to teach Kung Fu. I don't teach it anymore because I'm not willing to teach it the way it was taught to me. I'm willing to take all the ideas of Kung Fu and turn them into observe, orient, decide, act drills so that we can get the best response in the least amount of time. In Kung Fu, they used to tell you it would take 10 years to master the basics. And I was like, nobody's got 10 years. People got 3 hours. We got to be able to do 3 hours. We need a 100-hour program for fighting. So take the ideas from Kung Fu, combine them with the ideas of Krav Maga without the single-sided thing, and then build it into a bunch of basic things and then build out from there. Are handstands required by the average person or handstand stalls? No, not getting hit in the face is more important. Do you know Wing Chun? If yes, do you like it? I am familiar with Wing Chun. My friend Amina, the warrior, is a Russian martial arts person, sword girl and everything else, and she used to do wushu, competition, international wushu, and she trained with me and we did a bunch of OODA loop stuff, and now she's doing Wing Chun. I have seen Wing Chun. I understand the basic concepts of Wing Chun, but I do not have a wooden dummy. I really need a wooden dummy. I need 3 wooden dummies actually to do Wing Chun the way I want to do it, and I just don't have that equipment right now for your solo training. But I love Wing Chun. We did a lot of trapping hands and the stuff that I did way back in the 90s, so I can do basic trapping hands and stuff like that. I think it's a very good idea. I think that every traditional martial art needs to be taken from the traditional practice and plugged into OODA loop training. Observe, orient, decide, act. So give somebody a target, put them a chest or a helmet on, and you do sticky hands, and his only goal is to hit you on the red dot on the side, and your only goal is to block. How you get there is entirely up to you. There's 50 ways we can design those drills. I do like Wing Chun. I like some of the cross sweep steps and stuff like that. But Wing Chun was originally designed by, I believe, a nun to fight men, specifically men who were doing more like long fist, which was my style, which is a style like MMA from 1,000 years ago, which is designed for bigger, stronger individuals. So Wing Chun was an engineered solution to try to beat people to the center line strike so that they wouldn't get hit because they weren't going to be able to weather the blows from the bigger, stronger person. So from a design perspective, I think it's amazing. As it always taught, well, no, but almost nothing is taught the way that I think it should be taught. I think everything is taught too traditionally, and everybody forgot the point of a lot of stuff. And I think that we should go back in and do OODA loop experiments to put the point of all those things back in. But when I go out to LA next week, I'm going to try to slip into Amina's wushu or her Wing Chun class just for fun, because every time I go out there, I like to hang out with Mina, and we do martial arts because we're martial arts nerds, and that's what we talk about. The machine, leg press machine. Yeah, leg press machine at home is hard. It's going to be double front squat, but it's not going to be like leg press machine. Leg press machines are a specific angle. They tend not to be great for people's lower back because it tends to compress them if they don't have a good lower back already. If you're strong, it's not a problem. What is your opinion on the Pa Lavandle Gamma plate loaded club system? I have a Pa Lavandle, I think. That's from the company, but mine doesn't have plates. I would love to see the plate loaded system. I am going to look that up. It sounds like it's a great idea. If it's the same constant size and the plates go in and out, it's a fantastic idea, and I will look that up. Do you think it's worth going beyond 24K with a kettlebell, or should I start focusing on something else? From Lucas Vasquez. Yeah, I think it's totally worth going above 24K. The point of going above 24K is that 24K becomes intermediate. 16K, light. 24, intermediate. 32, pretty heavy. The point of going up above 24K, 26, 28, 30, is that 24 feels light. That's the point. I think that that's the point of kettlebelling in general, of double competition, like double 32s. I think that in the real world, you're not likely to be carrying that much load, but it makes 100 pounds light. So yes, go above 24K for sure. The competition adjustable kettlebells going up to 32 is great because you're gonna always be in that range of what I consider to be the most useful for the least amount of money. You can go above 32. It's just that suddenly getting above 32 without the competition bells, now you're looking at 200 to 300 bells for 34s for each 34. So to go one weight up, you spent the same amount of money as you spent on 19 other weights. Steve Dawson, MMA fighters train mostly kickboxing, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu. Why would anyone train other martial arts that don't work? Steve, I don't think you understand weapons fighting. No offense to you, Steve, but MMA fighters do not deal with guns. They do not deal with knives. They do not deal with staffs. They do not deal with multiple attackers. Is MMA amazing? Yes. Is it specific to fighting this one guy of your generally equal size on level ground? 100%. Other martial arts are designed for other things. Krav Maga is designed to fight 4 people. It's like MMA with turning around, to fight a guy behind you. If you don't practice turning around, you will not turn around well when somebody hits you in the back of the head with a brick. Other martial arts are specifically designed to deal with different things. That whole idea that other martial arts don't work is absolutely straight up bullshit. And that is what I have to say about it. Jiu-jitsu guys, now you'll notice Gracie has, they have self-defense, which deals with things like weapons. It's not in MMA, but they had to create something to solve problems of people being attacked by weapons. 100%. Other martial arts are designed for other things. When martial arts starts having 2 guys against 1 and somebody has a baseball bat, then it will change again. You'll notice martial arts coalesced from a bunch of different things to one very effective strategy. It's very similar to what was done in ancient Greece, plank ration. It's very similar to long fist in Chinese Kung Fu. It's very similar to Krav Maga without turning around. Martial arts are designed for different things. MMA wouldn't work at all if people are wearing armor. It wouldn't work at all, at all. Judo would work because judo is breaking people in armor. That's what jiu-jitsu originally was breaking people inside of armor. The same thing you would find in ancient in historical European martial arts. You will find takedown techniques and you will find lots of weapon techniques because weapons are really how you win fights outside of a sporting context. Steve Dawson, you think modern MMA coaches and big gyms are mining that gold? I don't know what that question means, Steve. Plenty of martial arts work. Plenty of martial arts work. Otherwise, they wouldn't exist. Things don't exist. Things like Kung Fu, versions of Kung Fu have existed for well over 1,000 years. Nothing exists for 1,000 years if it doesn't work. It disappears quickly. Do I use barbell at all? I do when I go to CrossFit Gambate. My barbell technique's not great, guys. I'm a kettlebell guy, club guy. I spend all my time doing that. If you have access to a good barbell coach or a good CrossFit coach, definitely barbell, 100%. I just don't do it because it's hard to drag around the world. If I'm flying to London and I'm staying at the Soho Hotel on Dean Street, there's no barbell in there. There's also not allowed to drop weights in there. So you can kettlebell in there and you can club in there and nobody will notice, but you cannot barbell in there. I know a lot of guys who barbell and are really, really good at it, like terrifyingly good at it. And I love it. It's a fine science. I love barbelling. I just don't talk about it because it's not the environment that I am training for. If you think about it like martial arts, it's not my sport, right? I'm training for something different. Would I consider running a workshop in Europe? Sure. Somebody find me a place to do it. I was thinking about doing one in Glasgow at not Everyday Athlete, although that is in Glasgow. That's Sam Hugan's gym, great gym. Kickboxing and like Not CrossFit. What's the other one? The long version of CrossFit, the psycho version of CrossFit, or at Sports Therapy Scotland. I would love to run that idea. I just don't have anything on the date right now. I wanted to have dates for the fall, but I have a family with health issues, and we're going in and out of the hospital every week. So I'm not going to schedule them until I figure out what's going on with that. Where is this Wing Chun class? I'm in LA and the concept sounds great. My friends and I were looking for a beginning martial arts class. It's on the west side. I'll have to ask her. I haven't been to her Wing Chun class yet. She invites me every time I'm there, but I'm always on the east side. And the east side and the west side are not close together. But she runs someplace over there. It's, shit, I just hit my thing. Sorry, guys. She works out at Robert Downey Jr.'s gym where they have wooden dummy and stuff like that. And she also goes to, make sure my sound didn't go off. She goes to Inasanto Academy, and she's got some other specialized teacher as well outside of Inasanto Academy. Most people tend to go to Inasanto Academy, Inasanto being Dan Inasanto, one of the students of Bruce Lee, and that school is lots of Wing Chun stuff and lots of Kali stuff. Think about it like MMA with sticks, or for the most part, or that style that has evolved. Once again, MMA, you put sticks in people's hands, MMA changes entirely. Discombobulate, you are correct. I did discombobulate myself. Am I still looking for Hema videos to do Mace flow with? Yeah, drop links, send them to me on Instagram. I would like to do, I have a bunch of stuff I've been working on, but I need an editor so I can finish all this stuff. Working on basic Mace flows, and the idea that I want to do is pick a basic series of movements and build a program around it, much like a martial arts form with all the pieces broken down into individual parts so that everybody can work on every little piece individually. And then I would like to release one a month, but that's probably going to start in the new year as part of an upcoming project. And then I would like to do that forever, because you can pull staff, sword, and weapons forms from every martial art on the planet, rip them apart into just a small series of movements, and build a monthly program so that everybody could work on these simple ideas kind of together in a more formatted way. What I currently have is just like 100 Mace videos where I was working on the basics because I didn't see anybody who had anything that was just do an inside circle to a flip catch. They skipped over all the detail of that and they just combined it with a bunch of sexy stuff. So now that I think that we have a bunch of free information out there for people to work on their basic familiarity, I would like to start building into specific movement patterns from history. Not specific movement patterns that we just made up, but specific movement patterns related to something that somebody found to be a successful movement pattern somewhere in history. So something like longsword or kwando or horse cutter or things like that. I have a bunch of examples of it already, but some of the kwando forms are 100 moves long. And I was like, my God, that's a whole year right there. And I have to sit down and rip it into sections and then write the program and then test the program and then film the program and then release them in series so that it will all add up. But yes, please send me Hema videos, please. Hema handwork videos. My friend Brody, who is part of Clan Ranald over in Scotland, he does a bunch of dope stuff, and I want to go through his videos of his longsword technique and turn that into videos. That'd be sick. What shoes do you recommend for intense running? Zeros. Luke Vasquez, zeros. 100%. I love fadeaways. But if you're really doing like long distance running, I would prefer something with more foot spread. Zeros are the ones that have long, wide foot spread, or the mil-spec mini mills. 100%. Those boots are magic. They feel so good. Tim Kennedy teaches weapons and fighting, and it's mostly jiu-jitsu and wrestling. Okay, well then it's not competition MMA anymore, Steve Dawson. Steve Dawson, I love how the fact that you're trying to find a way to change what I said into something else. every martial arts guy, MMA is ring MMA. That's what I consider MMA, competition MMA. Teachers will, of course, teach all these other things because they all see the need for it. Because they call it MMA or whatever, doesn't mean that they're not pulling those techniques from other arts throughout history. Krav Maga has gun defense. They're the guys who teach gun defense. They're the guys who make gun defense modern, in a modern context. Filipino, Kali, staff fighting, all these things are all pulled from all martial arts, all over the world, all throughout history. MMA guys can do those things, but that is not specifically MMA as I understand it. You can keep trying to change the words all you want, but that's still, other martial arts are valid. I don't care how much you trash talk them and say that MMA is great. Other martial arts have existed for thousands of years and did just fine. They're fine. They just need to be trained as an OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, act. Emily Mount, do I have a sports team? No. The closest thing I would have to a sports team would be Scotland rugby, and that's just because my friends in Scotland watch Scotland rugby, but it's not like I watch games or anything. I don't like basketball. I don't like it. I just don't like it. Basketball became so specialized and they mined the world for all the 7'2" people on the planet, and the game changed around that. I like soccer. I used to play soccer in high school, Sunday soccer after church, and then I played in high school. I didn't even really understand the rules, but I like that. I like things like rugby. I like lacrosse, but I don't watch any of those sports. And if you ever see me wearing like a sport hat, just know that I've been murdered and cloned or something like that. You'll never see me wearing that. I do watch MMA. I watch the fights sometimes when I'm near enough to watch it. I will talk MMA and stuff with people a lot to the best of my ability. And I talk jujitsu and stuff like that, but I don't watch sports. I watch the Super Bowl once a year, and I watch the commercials because it's fun. Zach Bracker, here we go. Any training ideas for helping alleviate issues with hallux limitus? Are you trying to get me to say Harry Potter words? Limited dorsiflexion of the big front toe. I'm having maximum angle. Did audio disappear? Audio still gone? Is it back? Can't hear you. It's back. Okay, Yazan. So anytime you have like a toe issue, it probably comes from having your foot crammed into boots for a long period of time, or pointed wing toe shoes. The first thing you do is train barefoot. The second thing you do is put on toe stretchers, yoga toe stretchers. I have a whole bag of them, and they will start to spread out your feet, and so your feet can start to try to work again. And then you do balance stuff, and then you do something like training deck squats with that. He said he had trouble with squats, having trouble with lunges, bear squats. So he's having his toes not doing that. Put on the toe stretchers and start over. And then you probably might have to see a body worker because there might be giant adhesions in the arch of your foot, which is preventing that muscle from extending fully. Or you can stand on a golf ball and roll it. You'll cry. Or get a 3.5-inch firm to hard spiky physio ball off Amazon for $8 to $11, and you're going to roll the bottom of your foot with that, and then you're going to repeat it with toe stretchers on barefoot. Simple starting idea. If that doesn't work, we can come up with a billion more. Steve Dawson again. True, good points. Steve Dawson keeps coming back about martial arts. It's cool that you promote weapon swinging martial arts and stuff like that. It seems fun and probably flows well into kettlebell and club training. Thumbs up. Yes. All of human history is full of weapons fighting. Clubs and mace are the way that people trained for weapons fighting for all of human history. For all of human history, up until very recently, going into a fight with your fist was a terrible, stupid idea, and you were definitely going to die. You should know how to use weapons because they are the origin of what makes us human. Your hand is designed to hold a club. It is also designed to punch things, but holding a club is preferable to punching things. Learning weapons-based martial arts is something everybody should do. I love MMA. You should learn MMA. You should learn jiu-jitsu and judo. You should learn wrestling. You should learn throwing. And then you should learn all of that with weapons in your hands. Weapons are a great thing, and it's something that's not taught very well in a limited amount of time. There are a lot of long schools that teach it in 5 years. I try to teach all that stuff in an hour. If you come to me and you get 1 hour of training for fighting, we'll start with basic things. If we're starting with weapons, we always start with staff. We start with OODA loop drills with staff. That's what is covered in my seminars because everybody should know it. It's the basis of human movement. After that, we start working on kicking because kicking people is better than punching people. Simple idea, if you're wearing a shoe, kicking somebody's preferable to punching them in the face with your hand because of blood-borne illness. Simple idea. And it also teaches people footwork. It teaches people how to move their feet. It teaches people to cross over. It teaches people to walk to target. It teaches people distance. And then we go to other things after that. But everybody should do weapons in your training at some point. If you do MMA, then you could do an hour of weapons a week in OODA loop drill, and it would help everything. It would help your dynamics. It would change things. How do you manage workouts when feeling under the weather? Drop weight. I drop weight and I usually keep going. Yeah, if I'm feeling under the weather, I usually drop weight or cut time, cut rounds. I usually try to just drop weight if that's the equipment that's available and do workouts for the same period of time with lighter weight because getting your body moving and pumping around all of your humors or whatever you want to call them, let's use ancient Greek. That's not what it really is. It's not humors, but it's fun to say. Pumping the systems of your body around, getting blood moving, making your breathing work, expanding and contracting all of your organs by driving it through rotationary movement tends to make me feel much better, much faster. And I always have sinus issues because I broke a tooth in Scotland on a movie and I got a raging infection. And so this whole side of my head gets messed up. So if I'm feeling under the weather, endurance kettlebelling and endurance clubbing gets me to breathe and moves all this stuff up here around a lot and just makes me feel better much, 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 much faster. Reference examples to any OODA loop drills. OODA loop, O-O-D-A, OODA loop, O-O-D-A. Yeah, I have like 10 videos that I did with Femina the Russian out in LA that are basic OODA loop staff drills and staff drills that turn to hit things. Yeah, there's tons of them. I have 10, I could make 100. How can you tell a good jiu-jitsu trainer from a poor one? I like to say warm up, but that seeing as how nobody warms up in jiu-jitsu gyms the way that I think that they should warm up anymore, I've had to drop that as a requirement of a good trainer. Usually if somebody shows you the full technique and then teaches it to you one step at a time and does it on both sides. That would be my version of a good jiu-jitsu trainer. A lot of guys who do competition only train good side, but I think that that's an error because I think people learn faster by learning it on both sides an equal number of reps back and forth. Not the nod to doing it on both sides, which is do it for 5 minutes on one side, and then if we have time, we'll do it on the other side. It should be 1 for 1, back and forth. To me, that would be an incredibly good jiu-jitsu trainer because it would balance your brain out from second one, day one, move one, and you would learn every technique and therefore escape equally well on both sides, which would double the amount of neurological stuff that you're learning in the same amount of time. Yeah, that's probably how I would define a good trainer now. Any suggestions for adding kettlebells into rowing, Concept 2 interval training? Concept 2 interval training. So Concept 2 is what I consider to be the only rowing company you need to know about. They make the Concept 2 rower. The PM3 is a generation. The PM4 is a generation. The PM5 is what they are currently on, which hooks to Bluetooth so your phone can track your rowing and everything else. But that's the most used rower in the world because it's the easiest to maintain and it's the best pull. Combining kettlebells with something like that can be done in a million ways. What are you training for is the real question that goes into that. If you're just throwing in, I like to separate rowing out from my kettlebell training because I tend to be doing long kettlebell sets and long rowing sets when I have access to my rower because it's out in Gambate in Los Angeles. I like to treat them differently, but you can stack them on top of each other. And you would take any like CrossFit workout where you would be stacking barbell on top of rowing and you would just replace the barbell with kettlebell in the simplest way. That's a dumb, simple idea, but it works. But I like to do the kettlebelling first and all that stuff. And then I like to do the Concept 2 daily workout, the daily workout of the day. Workout of the day that they publish every day, and the short one. 20, 25 minutes and under is the short one. Medium is 40 minutes and under. That's psychotic. 60 minutes and under, you got to be a professional probably to be pulling that off. It's crazy. So I like to do the short one because I think rowing patterns are, once again, a fundamental human skill. The Russians, the rowers were originally Vikings that traveled up all through the rivers throughout that area and kind of took over that area and became Russia, the Rus. As I understand it, of course, I could be wrong about that. But rowing is one of those things that's a kind of a defining movement of humans and civilization. You have running, crossing land. You have weapon swinging and throwing, things that define us from all other animals on the planet. And rowing is an action, was how we got around the world until the advent of engines and sail power for the most part. But rowing up rivers lasted for 100,000 years. Even in North America, you find paddling, canoe paddling, not rowing, but paddling, but same idea. So I think that rowing is a very good movement skill, and it's one of those first things that I would throw in if you have access to it, outside of your kettlebelling, your clubbing, your macing, your sandbag training, your slam ball training. I think rowing is one of those great ways to do cardio outside of running because it's that fundamental human skill. Ask me that question again later. I can come up with a ton of answers for rowing and kettlebelling. Stephen K, thanks for getting back into kettlebell training videos. I think I'm gonna just start redoing the kettlebell videos over again, but like in a logical way, because before it was just chaos. So thanks, Stephen, for the encouragement. I will work on that, and I think I will start that whole idea over again. Yes, Yazan of Sweden. Any plans to do the workout of the week you spoke of in a previous Q&A? Yes, I just I'm testing them right now. I did one this morning, and I realized it was not very well written because it almost killed me. So I rewrote it and I did it again. I'm trying to test one a day right now. So I'm doing my normal training in the morning and my workout of the week ideas at night. I did have a big idea that was going to use all the equipment, like a club, a kettlebell, a slam ball. And then I realized after I did it that that's a lot of shit. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to rewrite a bunch of them and try and shoot them when I'm in LA and try and get 10 out so I can release with 10. And I'm going to make them just kettlebell or just club or just mace for now. And we're going to try and do a bunch of those. And then we're going to come back and do combination ones that are like kettlebell club, kettlebell mace, those ways. But I want to make it the most accessible. So kettlebell is the most accessible. It's the thing that most people are most likely to have. And I've done hundreds of videos on the techniques. So I think that that's the one that's the best one to do first. They're coming along. I have a couple that are really good. Maul, his brother is a Krav black belt master. In 2017, he taught me to use only your good side on the first day, and I immediately disregarded that and went deep into training both sides. Yes, train both sides. A lot of the stuff with training one side, like in Krav Maga, they want you to get really comfortable on one side fast. I just don't think it works. It doesn't work for me because half the bad guys in the world are on the other side. So in the interest of making everything the minimum number of steps to get to a target, you need to train both sides, and you need to do it immediately from the beginning. And that is the theory that I go under, the minimum number of steps. So if you're good at turning that way and it's one step that way and it's 3 steps that way, bad people all throughout history have always learned to attack everybody's bad side. And if you don't train the attack coming from your bad side, and you have too many steps going that way, or your steps or your stance is not good, I consider that to be an issue right away that we should solve immediately in training. Luke Vasquez, should you be listening to music while working out? Sure. I mean, I don't. I oftentimes put on a TV show that I've watched 1,000 times, Supernatural, Lucifer, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I'll just let it run in the background just so it's not dead silent. And it tends to cover up the sound of my breathing in the house if I'm training in the basement or whatever. If I'm training outside, I just train. And I listen to the cadence of my own breath. A lot of people like to train with music because they're trying to escape the internal process of training. I try not to do that. I try to focus on what I'm doing. And I don't want something like Master of Puppets, Metallica Master of Puppets, to change my cadence or my breathing pattern outside of what I'm trying to accomplish. But I've never liked training with music, but I've always trained. I grew up in a farm, and I don't even think I had a CD until I was like 15. It was Master of Puppets. And yeah, so I always trained outside in silence, or the sound of the birds. You'll notice there's a lot of birds sounds in my videos because there are a lot of birds around here. Yeah, I don't train with music. You can train however you want though, whatever gets you through the day. I just don't want it to affect my breathing cadence. How do you know when it's time for deload week? Great question. Dark Nowitzki. Oh man, great name. Dark Nowitzki. How do you know when it's time for a deload week? Usually when you start being unable to sleep. When you stop sleeping all night, like I need a deload week massively, and I've just been holding off on it. So I had a couple of days off for 4th of July, and that was my deload. I went motorcycling, and I rode my trusty KTM. She got about 600 miles on her now, nothing. I make my deload weeks adventures, so I push my deload weeks to times when I should have already deloaded. But when you stop sleeping is usually the first indication that you need a deload week. When you start waking up a bunch of times in the middle of the night, or you can't fall asleep at night, that's usually the first indication that you need a deload. If you're training twice a day super hard, then it should probably be every 4th or 5th week. Yeah, usually lack of sleep or lack of appetite is the first thing to tell you you need a deload week. And I try to shove my deload week into adventure all the time. So I had a deload. I didn't work out Sunday, Monday, or did I work out Tuesday night? I think I did a short workout Tuesday night. Wednesday, yesterday I did 2. Today I'm going to do 2. Tomorrow I'll do 1 because I got to go get on an airplane to go to, and then I'll have a deload probably until Sunday. But yeah, deload when you stop eating or you stop sleeping. What is the weirdest place you have done your workout routine? A castle in Scotland. Bardowie Castle in Scotland. In the top floor of the old keep, super creepy up there, definitely haunted. Out front, where I was doing sandbag lifts and putting it on the stone walls, and then out on the pier. There's a pier on the lock there where I would go swimming until it got too cold and I almost died. And I would like do sandbag on the edge of the castle, and then I would do mill swinging, and then I would run out and swim in out to the buoys. Then I would come back and get in the canoe and canoe. Had a lot of fun at that castle. Bardowie Castle. Great place. Love it. Weird. Oh, is that not weird enough? God, weird. I don't know. I don't really think of any of the places I work out as weird, though. Dirt road, middle of nowhere. Yeah, I don't think that's really weird. Okay, guys. I think we've been doing this for way too long. Oh my God, we're over 2 hours now. I gotta shut up. All right, guys. This has been Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica. Thank you for all of the questions, and thank you for continuing to ask me questions, including our MMA question, gentlemen. Sorry. We will always talk about things. The more we talk about things, the better we get at everything. The more we discuss things, the more we conversate, the more we learn. All right? So we just got to keep doing it. Keep asking questions. We'll keep answering them. You make me think about what I know, and hopefully this will challenge things that you know, and it will change the way we all think, and we'll all get better at stuff together. That is the plan. Eventually, my goal is to make myself completely irrelevant, because everybody who watches all of this stuff will know everything I know, and the world will become a better place because you'll go out and you'll do stuff with all the information. All right, guys, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys stopping by, and good day.